Hello, everyone. This is Tim Brown, author of the book "Boys Won't Be Boys," and I'm excited today to have a local guy who's done well, Columbus native, whose heart is for the city of Columbus. Definitely has a heart for Columbus and some of his recent positions and some of the things he's doing in the community. He's worked with the My Brother's Keeper program. He's a native graduate of Eastmore Academy in Columbus. I want to make sure I get that right.
Absolutely.
Great athlete there, and still has a heart for serving young people. And this is Chris So. So, Chris, welcome to the show.
No, thanks, Coach. I'm so honored to be here. I've seen some legendary people on your show, and so to be able to join the ranks of some of those people, I'm honored to be here. And talk to you about life, talk to you about our students, man, and what we can do to move forward.
Yeah, that was one of the things I wanted to make sure that I didn't had a variety of individuals on here, and because I really believe that the work to be done is both. It's a young man's game, but as well as those other guys with some wisdom who've done some things, and that's why I appreciate guys like yourself who are willing to listen, who will listen to those who've come before, and how we can come alongside and help you. And so I'm excited about this conversation as well. Chris, can you give us a little bit about your background? I know you grew up here in Columbus and some of your experiences.
Oh, absolutely. So born and raised here in Columbus, on the south side of Columbus. I'm a proud native of the south side. Moved around a little bit. I went to several different schools, and which has really been able to help me in terms of, relationship building. I went to Fairwood Elementary. I went to Westgate Elementary. Then I moved over to Afrocentric for middle school. I went to Clinton and Mifflin for middle school. And then I went to Eastmore Academy. Graduated from Wright State University. And then I'm now finishing my master's at Franklin in public administration. And so, I've had opportunity to go to a variety of schools, but also, a lot of the summer programs that we had, is how I got known, like the NYSP, which is huge. That's not around anymore. I was a rec center kid from Blackburn to Douglas, to all over the city. And so, sports was really a way that connected me to a lot of the friends and coaches as yourself in relationships that I have now in the city.
Yeah, and in that process, could you talk about some of the men who came alongside you as a young fellow? Sound like you've had a lot of experience at different schools. Can you speak to some of those men who came alongside you to help you develop who you are today?
Absolutely. So my stepdad was a basketball coach. He was one of the ones. Coach Sat Sellinger, was huge in the community. His sons are some of my best friends. He was real huge in my life. Him being a Southside native too, he was one of the people that I can reach out and touch, a lot frequently than I could, a lot of other people. My high school coach, Coach Taylor, he was important to me. Even now, we still have a great relationship, being in the same fraternity. I was able to connect with him. One of my camp counselors at like Coach Owens, he coached at West too. Coach Owens was real huge for me. He was one of my camp counselors at NYSP. He played a huge role. Coach Lab, Coach Howard. Coach Howard's huge in the basketball community before his passing. And, he was one of the ones that that had some influence too and big in the, in the Black community for students. Even though he was Brookhaven's coach, Coach Howard, was huge in terms of a lot of the coaching trees that you see kids coach from. Him and Coach Sellinger are one of the ones that, we looked up to growing up.
Mm-hmm. What were some of the takeaways, some of the qualities that you saw in those men that helped you?
I think transparency, when you're talking about, modeling yourself after other Black men, you look at those ones that are going to be honest, right? We already come from, difficult communities, but, one of those ways that we come from now is looking at the people that are around us, right? Coach Howard he was honest, and he said whatever came to mind, especially when you messed up, man. His favorite word was mug, man. Hey, mug, what are you doing? And so I appreciated that. And for my stepfather was there as well. I think that he was huge on accountability, right? It's something that, a lot of people lack is, holding yourself accountable. I made a mistake, so what can I do to correct that mistake? And so those are the things that I appreciated the most. Communication, having an open door policy, because as a kid, I think that we discredit how sports has an effect on us, right? It's the relationships, it's the constant mentoring. It's their fathers to men that don't have fathers, right? And it's one of those things that we can depend on a Tuesday. If we had a bad day at school, knowing that I could still get a chance to go to practice and make up for the day that I had, and seeing these men were important to me.
That's good stuff. When you talked about that word accountability, I think about a lot of times I think these guys lack the will to complete something, to start something and to finish it. So what is that driving force inside of you that when you start something, your mind's, hey, I'm gonna complete this project. I'm gonna complete this assignment.
So I'm the oldest in on my mom and dad's side, and so for me, being able to finish something and set that tone for the rest of my siblings. I hate not being able to finish something, and I hate being unsuccessful, because for me, I almost feel like a failure, right? And even though this is me being hard on myself, right, I criticize myself a lot harder because I expect more. And so not being able to finish something is me not meeting expectations that my mother set for me. My mom had, no matter what environment that I grew up in or what happened, the bar was already set high for me, and I have those same expectations for myself. And so when I'm unable to meet that expectation, I can kind of get down on myself, is trying to figure out why, what did not do well enough so that I can, finish this, or, just holding myself accountable for anything that I put my foot in.
Yeah, that's great. I think for young guys, you have to have somebody that you don't want to let down. I can't let, like you say, can't let mom and dad down, can't let my coach down, because you begin to think about how much sacrifice they made, how much they poured into you. And like you say, being the oldest, you have some others watching you. They're watching how you handle. And that's the one thing about men. We have to know always someone's watching us, how we handle certain situations. People are counting on us, to complete what we started, not to give up, and that's what men, coaches, and then those examples do for us. I see your shirt there, that MBK. Can you talk a little bit about My Brother's Keeper and that concept? I know President Obama started the program, and we're excited that Mayor Coleman initiated, brought it to Columbus, and you have been the director and kind of kept that thing going. Can you talk about MBK?
Yeah, absolutely. MBK is amazing. President Obama started it in 2014 to help close the disparity gaps, facing boys and women of color today. And then shortly after, we took that call to action in 2016 with Mayor Coleman and, Council President Hardin to address some of those same disparity gaps in Columbus. We talk about the disparity gaps facing, our young men. We're talking about areas such as health, education, safety, and economics. And so in this role, my job is pretty much to be an advocate, advocate for these young men so that we can help close those same disparity gaps, working with other organizations that fit those mold, right? Whether it's finding a children's hospital or a nationwide children's hospital to kind of help the gap in health, whether it's working with Columbus City Schools to figure out, how we can help push our kids more towards, successful in education, economics, finding community organizations that provide meaningful work experiences for our students, so that they can get that workforce development or career readiness training at a young age. And so, what we've done over this past year, my role as program manager is focused on, high school success outcomes, right? What are we doing to prepare our young men once they enter high school to be successful? And then once they're in high school and progressing through each grade, what are we doing then to provide those wraparound services, right? We're talking about social and emotional learning. We're talking about mentorship. We're talking about academic assistance. And we're talking about career readiness, And so when we funded those three organizations during our MBK Round 2 grant, Community for Community Refuge and Immigration Services, Columbus Urban League, and then African American Wellness Organization, was because they were able to put together a program that was creative and pushing those outcomes for our students a lot higher. So these students are coming into these programs with the bar set high. In this role, my expectation for each student that I come in contact is nothing but success, right? And success is different for everybody. And so making sure they know for them, what does success look like for you? Even for when you talk to young men, you're asking them, what does success look like for you? And I think that's what we've done in MBK, is help measure those successes for our students, but also setting the bar high so that they can meet those expectations.
That's good. That expectations. You've been with what I call boots on the ground. You where the rubber meets the road. That you're out there. What are young guys saying? What are they saying that they need? I think we have all this stuff that we talk about, all this, that. But what are these young guys saying? That hey, Chris, I need this.
Yeah, and I think it's different, right? Especially being in COVID. Since I've been in this role, I think pretty much this role has been during COVID.
Right.
And, a lot of what the students need is what we may seem small to us, but be big to them, right? They need consistent mentoring, and we've seen that mentoring has been hard even in COVID, right? Mentors get burnt out. So even, potentially looking at a coaching model, as you know, from a former coach, coaching is a long-term thing, right? We'll provide setting expectations from the day I meet you until you reach that goal. And so that's why I like the coaching model. But for young men, it's simply saying we need consistent mentoring around us, right? And it's not about programs, because Columbus has a lot of programs, and so adding more programs to that won't be helpful. But making sure we provide meaningful programs for our students is just saying we're having a program.
So when you speak to men, what are you looking for in a mentor?
I think for me, somebody that has intentional goals about when they talk to these young men. Sometimes you see mentors who are talking about stuff that they never did, right? And it's pushing our kids, towards the wrong spaces. And also, as a mentor, what is your common intention for this kid? Are you going to help him in career readiness? Are you going to help him with academics? Are you going to have that transparent conversation that needs to be had? Because a lot of our kids are growing up in these vulnerable areas, and what they're seeing is a lack of men in these areas, right? We got single parent households. We got parents that are struggling to make ends meet. And so for the kids, to prevent them from acting out or getting into some type of trouble, they look to, somebody that looks like them to say, hey, this is what I'm going through. How would you recommend getting out of it? It's a lot of mentors that have gone through the same struggle some of these students have gone through. But when it's time for them to actually have these conversations with the students, to know where to be found.
Mm-hmm. Columbus is looks like a lot of inner cities now, and we've seen the growth of the downtown area, and we've seen the city. And you being from Columbus, you've seen this city kind of grow up, from being a smaller town to influx of persons or whatnot. So where does these young guys fit in? Then how do we fit in? How do we get them in on this growth boom, so to speak?
I think teaching them early. And we've seen with the access to social media, everything you want is at your fingertips. And so I think providing them some level of education at an early age, right, where they can use their platforms to kind of grow their brand, right? Social media is brand marketing, in itself, right? Because you're able to portray what you are doing and the potential of what you could be doing in terms of access to meaningful things. And so, teaching the kids use social media, teaching them to be entrepreneurship. We've seen YouTube become, the new sensation, whereas kids are talking about stuff that other kids want to hear about, but it's in a language that they understand. And, it's breaking that language barrier for us and for these younger students is how do we figure out a way or talk the language that allow our kids to listen to us, where they can then translate that into success.
Yeah, I like what you said about it. And I'm a big one on this, empowering them, giving them a voice. Giving them a voice. How does MBK and some organizations that you work with, some of your partners, give these young guys, these boys of color, a voice?
Well, they allow them to lead. We're in a space now where, coming from the protests up until now, that was mainly led by youth, younger than me. At my age, I'm a tweener. So I'm not old, but I'm still young enough.
That old.
I'm not old, but I'm still young enough to have a relationship with these kids. But I think some of our programs have allowed our youth to lead, right? They're leading the movement, they're leading the charge, and it's being done on social media, some space that, some of us can't go to. Like, so in our organizations, I've been able to give them that platform to lead, but they're also giving them that toolkit, right? And we've used this word a lot is because we're providing them the necessary tools and resources to be successful moving forward. And so they took some of that stuff. And how do they lead? I mean, they're communicating. They're being transparent, but they're also asking for help, right? How do I lead my next generation of youth in the future come out of a pandemic? And we've seen this whole entire pandemic that is strictly being led by the youth.
No, that's good. For a man who wants to get involved and you talked a lot about social media and a lot of those things and may not feel equipped, to come alongside a young person to help them during this time. What challenge would you issue to men and the importance of them getting involved and how they can get involved?
I think meeting the students where they're at, right? We know that when kids love sports, athletics are huge. Meeting the students where they're at is one of the big things. Going to these community centers, going to these rec centers, going to the schools, reaching out to these programs that are doing the boots on the ground work, such as MBK, such as a Legacy U, such as an Urban League, Urban Scouts, African American Men Wellness is what they've done well is they're providing a space where men like myself who want to mentor can come mentor. So I challenge anybody that want to get into this space to reach out to these organizations that have a strong hold on these students, and be a part of their lives.
Yeah, I think even as I age myself, I'm a little older than you, but as I age, I think nothing's really changed. Even when I was growing up, young boys just need to see men. Just need to see the presence of a man, need to see. And I would always tell men, the guys just need to see that other side, meaning that sometimes they don't think that they can make it to a certain retirement age, so to speak, or just, getting there. But I think it's important that men see that other side. They see men who have made it, and that will encourage them in their success. And I believe that's what you've done, just being that model, and your program is just that model of them giving them an opportunity to see men in a space where they're successful, where they're powerful, where, just being honest, where they're in charge, seeing an African-American male in charge. My first experience was seeing my first Black male person, was my sixth grade teacher, Mr. Clayton Burrows, and just seeing a Black man that's in charge of the classroom, and he was definitely in charge of the classroom now, wasn't no clowning in there, I mean, we walked the line, but I loved it. And we talked earlier about accountability. We were accountable, and he had some expectations, like you were saying, that bar was high and we had to work, and guys want that. Guys want those expectations, So as we wrap up, close out with, give me the expectations. You talked about those, but what are some of the things that men, we need to challenge these boys in? What do we expect out of them? Because we know that some men before them have worked hard to get us to this point. So what expectations would you leave for this generation, these young guys?
It's something in plan, right? You plan to work, and then you work the plan. And for me, that's what it is, right? You talk about, I did an event with Linden STEM, or Windsor STEM, at elementary school, and we helped the kids make 2020 vision boards way before the pandemic. And this is something that, elementary kids have never done before, is a vision board. So helping our kids see their vision, help them plan a vision, because think about it, coming from these communities, when you're talking about what's next, most of these kids are only thinking about right now, right? Do I have enough to eat right now? Am I going to be able to have, working utilities? So everything our kids have been taught is for this current moment. And so when you talk about working a plan, they don't have no idea what that means. Well, I don't know what I'm going to be doing in a year because I'm worried about what I'm going to eat tomorrow. And so as I'm advocating for our students and for our mentors, it's helping our students build a plan. And so by helping them build a plan, you're setting an expectation high already. By the time I graduate high school, this is what I plan to be. And this is how I plan to get there. And so as a mentor, and even then, when I'm not in this role anymore, I will always be working with students to empower them to make a plan and write it down. I think it says in the Bible, write a plan as plain as he so that he can see it. And for me, that's always been in the back of my mind in any position that I go to, is making sure when I come into a role, I have a plan of where I plan to see myself, whether it's 30, 60, or 90 days next forward. I have a plan for what I plan to accomplish in these next days, months, and years.
Wow, that's powerful. That's a great way to end this. Just encourage young guys to make a plan. And part of that plan is to live,
That too, Coach. Yeah, that too.
Really, when you have a plan, you ain't trying to cut that plan short. So you're trying to work that, do whatever you can. I love how you said, you didn't say 10 years from now. You didn't say 20 years from now. You said 30, 60, 90 days. That's powerful. That's powerful. So I want to thank you for this rich conversation. I appreciate all you are doing in the community and will continue to do. And my prayer is that the Lord will continue to use you in a mighty way. And I want to assure you the impact that you have had and are having is long lasting. It's long lasting. And I'm sure that your mom and dad and all those coaches that you talked about are proud of you. I want to tell you I'm proud of you as well. So I want you to continue doing what you're doing. And I appreciate your time today. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate it.